Okay, we should be going up live on YouTube as well. It's still refreshing, but it should be starting in the next couple seconds. So hope everybody's doing well and is surviving the heat that we're having this weekend here in Topeka. Just want to see if you've got any questions. Surviving the heat that we're having this weekend here in Topeka. Okay, we stopped the, now I'm not reverbing, bouncing back and forth between the two. So hopefully that's working okay. So yeah, any questions or any topics that you all want to talk about, we're open to discuss while we're in these Facebook and YouTube live sessions, and glad to discuss things that are on your minds and concerns or anything else that you've got going on. So just pop them in the chat box, and really appreciate Scott and Donna and Andrew helping me manage this process. So we try to stay on top of everything. I could not do this without them. So when you get a chance, pat them on the back, tell them thank you. They are awesome partners to have in this process. Okay, great. Okay, I'm seeing it on mine. I'm seeing YouTube on mine, but I'm not getting word that it's not maybe working. So if you're on YouTube, if you could let us know. Okay, so what I can see is the image. And so if you're posting a comment on either YouTube or Facebook, I'm depending upon the rest of the team to get those to me, because just the setup requires me to be able to see just the images working off my iPad. And so okay, good. Okay, good. Any comments that you've got? Any questions that you've got? Anything that So Don asked if we're getting any good comments from the online survey. We've got, as of yesterday morning, we had about 45 responses. We're hoping that response rate goes up some. It's interesting to see kind of where folks are at, and what is standing out so far with regard to that is that there are a wide variety of thoughts about when folks feel comfortable about face-to-face worship in the building. And the other questions, particularly with regard to the safety measures or communion and whatnot, it's kind of still too early to tell. And so what we're hoping to get is a lot more responses in the next week. So we'll send out a reminder early this week with another link to that survey and invite folks to get back to us on that. This next one will be just a survey email. It will just be that. It won't be anything else. So, okay, so the question about the arrangements for Bob Alderson's service and visitation. And so in consultation with the family, what we worked on was a plan that involved a car side visitation in the Gage Boulevard parking lot. So on the west side of the building, in the circle. So you would come in through the second entrance around the big tree, and the Alderson family would be there to greet you. And that's from 5 to 7 on Thursday, June 11th. And so we hope that folks will be able to make that. And then we are working. I'm working on my parts of the celebration of life service, and the family is working on how we'll put those pieces together. It will be an online digital service, and that I believe, I don't know if Stephanie or BJ are on here, but if they are, just in case I get this wrong, please correct me. But it will be posted on the Brennan Mathena Funeral Home website, and the anticipation is later this week. And so we'll share that information through the church email, mass email, as well, to get folks on board, and so that they all know. And of course, we want the family to know that we're keeping them in our prayers, and we're keeping everyone grieving in this time in our prayers. Yeah, great. BJ said that we can send the link to the church. And so what we'll do is, once we have that link, we'll send that out to the whole church so that everybody can access it easily. That's a great idea. Thanks, BJ. Any other questions or topics that you want to talk about? Okay. So one of the other things that we'll be doing coming out this week on the church's Facebook page, excuse me, the church's Facebook page and the community group page, is we'll be sending out some suggested reading, some awareness raising exercises related to systemic racism in our culture. Some of these resources come from the General Church of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. And some of these resources come from other trusted allies and folks who can help us with regard to thinking through these issues and how do we make a difference in our community, in our state, and in our world. Great. So we're glad that you're here, and you know, as you've got questions or you've got topics that you want to discuss, we're glad to do so. And I think Scott, maybe you can answer this question for me. I think there's a little bit of difference in time between Facebook Live and the YouTube Live event. Maybe 30 seconds, a minute. Okay. Yeah, I think I keep going back to that step of listening. I think that's so important. It was a lesson hard learned by myself earlier in my life. I'm still learning that lesson. And so we're continuing to try to pay attention and think about ways to practice listening, because one of the things that sometimes happens in any kind of situation when we listen, that whether that's with our spouses or with our children or with our friends or with people of color, is we end up making the listening about ourselves, and so then we end up talking instead of listening. And so it requires discipline and intentionality to step back out of that and just listen. And I so just so you know, I'm talking to myself there, as much as anyone else. Yeah, and so one of the things that we're going to be working on is thinking about ways in which we can build awareness across the congregation. The comment was about potentially a book group, and so one of the things that we're going to be looking at is how do we do this? How do we build this across the whole body of the congregation? Um, yeah, I'm not exactly sure how he found out about us being there, but we were three guys running across the street out of a convenience store to a bank in winter coats and stocking caps. And my guess is he either saw us doing that and just was trying to figure out what was going on, or somebody called him or called the police department and raised the question. What's what stands out to me though was that moment in the locker room afterwards when on Monday following that Friday night, and I'm telling this story and laughing, and I'm a big shot, right? And look what we did this weekend, and this is what happened to us, and then my teammate and um, friend said, "Well, I'm glad I was with you, because if I had been, we all could have ended up shot." Um, that was the um, a a moment of major awakening. So Albert Booker was my teammate's name, and he was from South Carolina, and I can hear still his voice as making that comment. Okay. So the question that's popped up in the chat is, how is daycare going? The child care center is going well. We have not had any issues. We're still maintaining those entry practices, temperature checks, hand sanitizers, no parents in the building past that check-in point at the back, at the east side doors on Stone Avenue. And as we think about moving that forward, we're continuing to see some more kids come in. We're still down a little bit in terms of numbers overall. We're not back at full capacity. We've got quite a bit of room where we could expand, but so far things are working smoothly. So that's in terms of the question of how the child care center is doing. That's what's going on with them. So one of the challenges is, as we think about this, Dee Dee's niece was killed 2 weeks ago in an automobile accident. She went to Texas to this funeral service and was in a large gathering. So when she returned early last week, we told her she had to work from home for the next period of time, just to make sure that there was not any kind of issues with the virus, and we're doing that with all of our staff, unless they can say, I was around nobody. We weren't, we didn't have any contact that we would not have had in Topeka or Shawnee County, or we followed the same exact guidelines. Then, but then that's different. But if folks are traveling and they're around larger groups of people, then that gets complicated, and we have got to um, then you've got to pay attention to um, making sure we're doing some quarantining and safe practices with regard to that, so that we don't instigate a situation in the childcare center or the church. Okay. Yeah, so Diane Jenkins asked, would I do the movie series in July? And, I've thought about that, and I would be glad to have your feedback on that. So maybe what I'll do is I'll post a question in the community group or on the Facebook page and ask that question, what do you think about a movie series and what suggestions do you have? The challenge is can't really use clips in if it's online, we can't use clips. And if, how do we make that available? How do we help folks connect to the movie ahead of time, maybe so that they've watched it? And so how do we have how do I do a sermon around that and a topic? I've been trying to make sense of that and just understand how to do that. And I've been a little bit stymied by that. I'm a little bit confused about how to best do that so that it is engaging and helpful in the process. So maybe the way to take the next step on that is just to post the query to post the question on the Facebook group and see how folks respond. So Diane, thanks for that suggestion. I kind of started taking it off the calendar and was moving in a different direction, but I will return to that and reconsider that. So as folks have questions, other topics they want to talk about, questions that we want to explore, post them in the chat and let's talk about them. Like I sometimes have had to say, I don't know. That may be the case today, but we will approach it as we need to. And I'm kind of trying to intentionally go back and forth between each camera, between Facebook and YouTube. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. So Kate Larison shared with the group that their family watched Just Mercy yesterday, and it was excellent and free during the month of June. Kate, would you be able to tell us what platform that was from? The Hate You Give was another suggested movie from Jamie Kendall, and that's a service where you can. It's not free. You can pay to rent it though. So I'm guessing that's either Apple TV for The Hate You Give or maybe Amazon Prime is another option for The Hate. So the word is on Just Mercy. It's Apple or iTunes, Apple TV or iTunes, Contour, Netflix, Google, YouTube, and maybe a couple others, if I'm understanding what I'm hearing correctly. So it's on multiple platforms. Kate, thanks for that suggestion and that info. That's a big help to all of us to find ways to connect with that. Okay. What other questions? What other topics are important to discuss for you today? So I will kind of circle back to the one of our early questions from this morning about the online survey about readiness of the congregation and coming back. Our hope is that we will get several more responses this week. And like I said, we've had about 45 responses, and we'd like to see that number go up considerably. So we'll push that out again, but we're hoping to have that information by next weekend to see kind of a mass number of folks that have responded to that and give us a good idea where folks are at and how folks are feeling about re-entering the building and some of the challenges that will go along with that, things like singing and communion and bathrooms and social distancing and just figuring out how to manage those pieces. It's pretty challenging. Any other questions or comments? Anything else? Okay. Well, we hope that everyone is doing well and that you are finding ways to get out and connect with your neighbors, socially distanced. We've done that a couple times in the backyard, across the fence. It's nice to have a conversation and catch up with your neighbors that way, and it feels really different, and it is still a challenge to figure out how to navigate these waters. So if there aren't any other questions, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Or unless there's something else, I'll give just another minute. Yes, yeah. Please complete the surveys, and if you can't find that email, we will send out that link again on early this week, and you'll have another chance. We encourage you to make sure that we've got it, and I will post the link in the Facebook community group, not the church's Facebook page, but First Christian Church Community Life, which is a closed group just open to participants in the life of the church, members and non-members. Okay. Kate Larison mentioned. Okay, so I will follow up on that, Kate, and see about check your email in the database for that, and we'll also put it in the First Christian Church Community Life group so that folks can find it there as well. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you all joining us for this time. I'm glad to do it. We're appreciate the opportunity to connect and hear. One of the things that I really miss is, I want all of that connection, right, that we got to have at worship. and after worship and fellowship time and during the week, that's all gone for me too. And that's hard. It's just challenging. So, okay. Well, may this be a blessed week for all of you. Stay tuned on the Facebook page and the Community Life, and we'll also include that information in a series of emails coming out this week. Brian, you're welcome. I just, there are others to tell as well of my own becoming aware of the difference there, because there is a real difference. And okay, great. It's good to see you all, even if it isn't this platform. I know this feels odd, but it is good to be able to connect with you all in this way, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity. So God's blessings upon you in this week ahead, and share God's love with all those that you encounter. Go in peace. Amen.